Tonight, on a Week in League, we'll be talking about the EG Danny drama, Upset is back, LEC Final winners, and so much more right after the intro. Welcome to a Week in League where we cover League of Legends esports all around the globe from all 4 major regions. I'm your host Slomar, and let's just get right into the news. As usual, timestamps and links will be in the description, and while you're down there, don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button. Thanks. Week 6 in the LPL just wrapped up. RNG, JDG, and LNG went 2-0, while IG and FPX went 0-2. Everyone else went 1-1. The standings are beginning to shape up and look like what most people expected heading into the spring split. Perhaps the one exception is LNG. LNG is currently at the top of the standings, holding number 1 for now. Heading into the split, I think nobody would have expected that this roster would be number 1, but we're here now. Scout has been having the split of his career so far, leading the Player of the Game awards by 4 points. If Scout and LNG keep up the performance, I think Scout might be a contender for the MVP of the spring split. WE's Heng is the rookie of Week 6. The guy's holding some pretty solid stats on the board. JDG's top side and RNG's bot sides are on the list for the best of Week 6. LNG's mid laner Scout is the best player for Week 6. We've talked about him a little bit already, leading the Player of the Game awards. The guy is also first in damage per minute and damage per gold, and both are really impressive stats in the LPL. Anyways, time for Game of the Week. And this week, it's JDG versus TES. 2 very close games this series by both teams, but JDG ends up winning it. Rookie versus Knight in the mid lane always delivers. And there were even some key moments in the bot lane in Ruler versus Jackie Love. Certainly worth a watch. That's all we got for the LPL this week. Make sure you tune in next week for our continued LPL coverage. I want to start off the LCK segment by talking about the LCK English broadcast, The Split. It seems like not only do they have a lot more resources this year, but Wolf and Huni have been great on the broadcast this year. I remember watching the old OGN English days, and this has certainly come a long way since. Anyways, onto our weekly LCK coverage. T1 having 11 wins on the board means they've already qualified for playoffs. Yes, it is only Week 6 and they've qualified for playoffs. T1 is trying to speedrun the LCK to MSI real quick. The team looks so dominant with their jungler and support currently leading up the Player of the Game standings. Maybe even T1 can pull off a Grand Slam this year. I'm back, baby, and this week we're talking about the Grand Slam. The term Grand Slam comes from tennis and is the achievement of winning all 4 major championships in 1 calendar year. Now, this isn't tennis, and we only have 2 international tournaments, some might say. And to those, I say, the 2 splits count. So, in order to win the Grand Slam in League of Legends, you need to win the Spring Split, MSI, Summer Split, and then Worlds. So far, no team has pulled off the Grand Slam. However, 4 teams came very close to it. SKT1 came close twice. In 2015, they only missed MSI, finishing 2nd place, losing to the finals. And in 2016, they finished the summer playoffs in 3rd place. RNG came close in 2018, but didn't win Worlds, which is arguably the hardest achievement of the Grand Slam. G2 also came close in 2019, only missing Worlds and finishing in 2nd place. TLDR, you gotta win everything in your calendar year, and it's a Grand Slam. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. I know it's only Week 6, but maybe T1 can pull off the Grand Slam this year. I think it's pretty clear in the LCK right now which teams are making it to playoffs. The top 6 is a very tight race, and the bottom 4 is not really in the conversation. Arguably, T1 is in a league of their own, but we're gonna stop talking about T1 for now. Time for Game of the Week! And if you thought we were gonna stop talking about T1, you're wrong. This week, it's gonna be none other than the Telecom War, And while the telecom war was not as hype as it usually is, it still delivered. Faker pulls out Annie in 2 games, but Keria and Owner are the stars of this show. The telecom war is always worth a watch, so go check that one out. And that's all for our LCK coverage this week. Tune in next week for our continued coverage. It was the LEC Winter Finals weekend, and we got some hype best of 5s. Mad Lions won 3-1 versus Koi in the semifinals and got to advance to the finals against G2. To be honest, the semifinals was closer than the finals, but both matches were pretty good. G2 dominated Mad Lions 3-0, finishing the best of 5 in 3 quick games. This means G2 has now qualified for MSI. Yes, they are the first team to qualify to MSI this year. The LEC format is still really cool, with the Winter Split wrapping up and the Spring Split right around the corner. The short splits really help keep everything feeling fresh. In most other leagues, there's usually a dip right after the halfway point, and then it starts to ramp back up for playoffs. With the new LEC format, there's almost no downtime. It's all go, go, go. I'm a big fan of that. Anyways, Caps was the finals MVP, and G2 got to claim yet another title. Congrats to G2 on winning their first ever Winter Split. The LEC Spring Split is back on March 1st, so make sure you tune in for our continued coverage. Can Vitality make a comeback this year? The LCS had another week of banger content. Not so much on the game side though. Ovely May being on the broadcast definitely delivered, and the Mark C segments are top tier. Golden Guardians continues their 7-game winning streak, and their jungler River picks up the Player of the Week award. GG is performing really well and might even be a playoffs contender. Dignitas won their first game this week, and Cloud9 Eminence had an okay LCS debut. The standings are nothing like you'd expect, since teams like 100T and TL are still underperforming, while FlyQuest and Cloud9 are on top. Time for Game of the Week! And this week, it's Golden Guardians versus Cloud9. And this was Eminese's first game on stage. And you know what Golden Guardians did? They took full advantage of that. They were like, let's camp this guy and get a free win. Golden Guardians took the flash off Victor early and kept their foot on the gas for the rest of the game. Definitely worth a watch, especially if you want to see what the Golden Guardians hype is all about. We have 2 more regular weeks and a super week left in the LCS, and I'm hoping we start getting some better performances from the rest of the league. The league is looking very top heavy right now, and that's never a good sign. Anyways, make sure you tune in next week for our continued LCS coverage. Welcome to In Other News, a segment where we discuss news that may or may not be related to LOL Esports. This week's headline is Breaking News. This just in. Upset signs with Vitality. He'll be Vitality's new AD carry going into the Spring Split. As soon as Vitality was knocked out of playoffs, I knew something like this was gonna happen. I mean, this big roster can't miss playoffs twice in a row and have no changes. Personally, I'm excited to have Upset back in the league. It was a little weird not having him on a starting roster for Winter Split, but he's back now. In other news, Richard Lewis released an article titled "The Witch Hunt of LeTigress Exposes Esports Fans' Coddled Mentality Again." I highly recommend you give this piece a read, even though I know no one likes reading articles discussing real issues with esports. Richard goes in depth covering the entire situation and the history of how it was handled. Anyways, link is always in description. In other LEC roster news, Fnatic will overhaul their League of Legends lineup. With Upset being signed to Vitality and Reckless being such a big signing, I doubt Reckless is leaving, but we'll see how this roster ends up. In other news, Immortals mid laner Ablaze Olive to step away from the LCS for the remainder of the Spring Split due to personal issues. Immortals have since put out a statement on Twitter announcing that Bululu will be Immortals' new mid laner for the rest of the split. In other LEC news, with G2 winning the LEC Winter Split, fans agree the new LEC Winter Split trophy sucks. Honestly, I agree too. It kinda doesn't look that good. Love the new format and all, but not so much the trophy. In other news, here's a clip from Keria to all of you solo queue supports. Roll the clip.
And Keria, a lot of people are so worried about the solo queue, and they're so worried about the various support picks. Now, a lot of support players will play various support in solo queue from now on. So, is there any tip for anyone who's gonna play various in solo queue? You guys are not Keria. Your teammates are not T1 players, so keep that in mind before you try various at home.
Please keep that in mind. In other news, Team Peace is removed from the LCO. Team Peace was removed from the LCO after breaching the team participation agreement. The LCO issued a competitive ruling with more details on the matter. If you want to learn more, links are always in description. Our last story for tonight is about Evil Genius's ex-AD carry player, Danny. Thorin has released a piece discussing the issue in more details and revealing some spicy details about the situation. We talked about this a bit last year with the whole emergency sub thing being very fishy, and now Thorin has come out and said that certain figureheads were manipulating Danny to stay on the roster week to week. There are way more information in the video, and Danny has put out a statement since, I don't know, I'm just hoping that someone on the EG side can come out and clear things up a little bit. But if I had to guess, no one on EG is probably going to address this. Anyways, the link to Thorin's video is in the description, and I highly recommend you watch it. I hope we get more information about this topic as time passes. Perhaps Danny can even make a comeback to the LCS or something. And that's the end of our show for this week. Thank you so much for all the continued support. If you're enjoying the show, please consider subscribing. Have a good night, and good luck in solo queue. Woo!